Imagine this. A world just completely awash in information where what's real and, well, what's fake blurs almost instantly. It's a digital landscape we all navigate every single day, and it raises this really critical question. Can artificial intelligence, the very technology that helps information spread so widely, can it also be the solution to this deluge of misinformation and disinformation, what we often call fake news? It seems almost too good to be true, doesn't it? This idea that AI, which can, create so much content, could also be our digital guardian against falsehoods.
It's an understandable temptation, I think, to see AI as the ultimate answer, especially for such a massive problem. I mean, the sheer volume of digital content we're dealing with, it makes manual verification almost impossible, right? So it pushes us to look for some kind of algorithmic savior. But as we're going to discover in this deep dive, the reality is far more intricate. It really prompts us to question the nature of truth itself in this new age.
And the stakes just couldn't be higher. Just think back. Cast your mind back to the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Our sources reveal that a surprisingly small number, just 156 false election-related articles, were collectively shared over 37 million times. And that's just on Facebook. What's really unsettling, though, is that an Ipsos poll, I think it was done for BuzzFeed back then, it found that 5 of the most prominent fake news headlines circulating managed to fool a staggering 75% of the people they asked. That's a profound impact. It shows just how vulnerable we can be. So our mission today really is to give you a clear shortcut to understanding this complex landscape of AI-powered fact-checking. We're going to explore its unique capabilities, its inherent limitations, and crucially, the absolutely critical role humans still play. We'll try to uncover why a simple, all-encompassing fake news detector remains elusive and, maybe more importantly, what practical steps each of us can take, both as individuals and as a society. How we navigate this rapidly evolving information environment. To do this, we'll be diving into a really rich stack of sources. We've got academic reviews from Chicago Booth and EDMO looking at AI's paradoxical role. We've got developer insights from Google AI, practical guides from Microsoft and Articulate, a pretty chilling real-world case from AP News, and even some very stark warnings from the godfather of AI himself.
Yeah, it's quite a range. And what's fascinating here, I think, is that initial temptation, the urge to just hand this whole problem over to algorithms, it runs deep, mainly because of the sheer volume of data involved, like I said. But as we'll see, the reality is far more nuanced. It raises some really important questions about, well, what is truth anyway?
Okay, let's start by really laying out the problem we're up against, this prolific spread of what our sources are calling information disorder.
Right.
The idea of fake news. It isn't new, right? It's been around for centuries. But the digital age has just turbocharged its speed and scale. It's unprecedented. The numbers you just mentioned from 2016, they really highlight the sheer power of even just a few false narratives. The fact that 3/4 of people could be swayed by those headlines, yeah, that's genuinely concerning.
It truly is. And the historical context shows us, look, misinformation has always existed. But the internet, it's amplified its reach exponentially. Just think about the sheer volume of digital content being generated daily now.
Yep.
Our sources mention things like 500 million new tweets,
Well-
0.29 million new blog posts, 5.6 billion Google searches, and a mind-boggling 720,000 hours of YouTube videos uploaded. And that's every single day.
Every day.
Yeah, this isn't just a trickle, it's a data deluge. It completely overwhelms our human capacity for verification. So relying solely on human fact-checking at this scale, it's simply impossible.
That is an ocean of information. And as we know, a significant chunk of it just isn't true. Our sources helpfully define fake news as basically false information that's carefully packaged to look like real news. It's designed specifically to deceive, either for financial gain or to push a particular ideology. But it's vital to remember, right, that fake news is actually just one piece of a much broader challenge, this thing called information disorder, which also includes misinformation, that's false stuff spread unintentionally, and disinformation, which is deliberately false and spread with intent to harm. And what's truly intriguing, or maybe unsettling, is that the very algorithms designed to determine what we see on social media, the ones amplifying content to maximize engagement, they're also the ones we're increasingly looking to for a fix. It creates this fascinating paradox. It's almost like asking the fox to guard the henhouse, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It's a striking paradox. AI's formidable capacity, its ability to process, generate, and distribute content at scale. It makes it an unparalleled tool for information proliferation. But, and this is the crucial part, without careful design and rigorous oversight, it can just as easily become a super spreader for falsehoods. not just a simple tool for verification. And this amplification of disinformation by AI, it isn't just theoretical. It's a very tangible, active problem we're seeing play out right now.
And it's not just happening by accident either. Malicious actors are clearly exploiting this. Generative AI, or GAI, it hasn't invented disinformation, obviously, but it has dramatically amplified its creation and distribution. We're seeing concrete, concerning examples of this in the real world.
Yes, definitely. Our sources highlight several cases. For instance, there's a notable Russian network that's been, well, extensively documented, using AI chatbots to spread pro-Kremlin narratives. These AI tools effectively infiltrated major online platforms, pushing their agenda, often quite covertly. An audit by NewsGuard, this is pretty striking, found that the top 10 generative AI tools actually repeated false claims from the pro-Kremlin Pravda network concerning 33% of the time.
A third of the time. Wow.
Think about that. 1 in 3 times, these advanced AI systems just echoed propaganda. This isn't some hypothetical threat. It's actively influencing our information streams right now.
That's a huge failure rate for tools you might expect, or hope, would be more neutral and objective. And it's not just state-sponsored networks, is it? Our sources also mention DeepSeek and open-source AI. Now, it sounds quite impressive, technologically energy efficient, low development costs, makes it appealing for developers. But, and this is critical, it was developed under the direct supervision of the Chinese Communist Party. What's really important here is that it strictly avoids sensitive topics, it enforces censorship, and it meticulously monitors user behavior. This effectively turns what could be a powerful technological tool into an instrument for propaganda and control. I think our sources even mention ongoing data protection lawsuits in several EU countries related to its use, which just underscores how serious these issues are.
And then, on a different front, we have Grok, Elon Musk's AI chatbot. It has faced widespread criticism for generating and amplifying disinformation, often seemingly due to minimal oversight in its design. Our sources indicate it frequently produces responses heavily influenced by unfiltered and often, frankly, misleading online discourse. Like the stuff it's trained on. It's been observed spreading politically biased content, offensive language, conspiracy theories. For example, a Northwestern University study found it falsely claimed Kamala Harris missed voting deadlines in 9 states, which just wasn't true. It demonstrates how a model may be designed for conversational breadth can easily propagate inaccuracies when its guardrails are, well, insufficient.
Yeah, it really sounds like these sophisticated tools, despite all their computational power, are sometimes just picking up the worst bits of the internet and repeating them with this startling confidence, presenting speculation as fact. And it's not just chatbots creating the content, right? The new generation of search engines, the ones powered by large language models, LLMs, they're also contributing to this tide of misinformation. I saw a study mention from the Chow Center for Digital Journalism. It found that over 60% of the responses generated by these new AI-powered search engines were inaccurate. They were fabricating or distorting facts in their summaries. That's a huge margin of error for something we rely on for basic information.
It absolutely is. And this brings us to a really crucial concept in AI, the stochastic parrot, this term. It comes from a foundational paper by Bender and colleagues. It highlights this inherent tendency of LLMs to hallucinate. Now, that doesn't mean they're seeing things, obviously. It means they create false information that sounds true. It sounds plausible, often because they're simply predicting the next most likely word or phrase based on their training data, not actually checking for factual accuracy.
Just pattern matching, essentially.
Exactly, just pattern matching. And they can also propagate biases that are present in that training data. This makes them incredibly powerful, but also really problematic tools for disinformation disseminators. People who want to spread false stuff. They can use them to create manipulated content quickly at a massive scale, totally overwhelming our ability to discern truth from fiction.
And it truly becomes a perfect storm when you factor in social media algorithms, because these aren't designed for truth, are they? They're designed to prioritize emotionally engaging content. Why? To maximize screen time for ad revenue. And guess what often generates strong emotional responses? Disinformation and propaganda. It's a vicious cycle. Then you add in human amplifiers, like paid influencers or coordinated groups, who further accelerate the viral spread of these misleading narratives. It feels like a systemic issue.
It really is systemic. And we also can't overlook deepfakes. Now, our sources indicate that while their proportion maybe hasn't increased dramatically in the overall content landscape compared to other AI outputs, their potential to deceive and manipulate, that remains a serious concern. The rapid evolution of generative AI makes producing highly realistic fake audio, fake video, fake images. It makes it easier and faster than ever before. We've already seen scammers using deepfake technology to impersonate celebrities, even politicians, trying to lure people into fraudulent cryptocurrency schemes, for example.
Darn.
So when we connect all this back to the bigger picture, that paradox is really striking. AI's ability to process and generate content at scale makes it an unparalleled tool for information proliferation. But without careful design, without rigorous oversight, it can just as easily become a superspreader for falsehoods, not just a simple tool for verification.
Okay, so we've established the monumental scale of the problem and how AI, kind of ironically, is making it worse in many ways. But it's still incredibly tempting to think that AI must be able to help, right? I mean, it can process vast amounts of data at lightning speed, far beyond what any human could do. So why can't we just build a straightforward AI fake news detector, something that just tells us true or false? Our sources are telling us it's just not that simple. Why is that?
Well, the fundamental reason, I think, lies in a common misunderstanding of what AI truly is, and maybe more importantly, what it isn't. People often think of AI as, I don't know, some kind of superintelligence, right? Inherently smarter than humans. But that's really a misperception. At its core, AI is a tool. Think of it like a hammer. A hammer is incredibly effective for driving nails, but you wouldn't use it to cut wood or, bake a cake. Not every problem is a nail. And AI isn't some magical intelligence. It operates based on the data it's given and the patterns it learns from that data. It doesn't have a deep human-like understanding of the world.
That's a really useful analogy. Okay, so how does AI learn them in very basic terms? What are its fundamental building blocks?
Okay, so at its core, an algorithm designed for learning typically has two main parts. You've got a trainer and a predictor. The trainer. It learns from training data. That's just a huge number of input-output examples. Once it's ingested all this data and identified statistical patterns, the predictor applies that learned knowledge to new unlabeled data to produce an output. Think of an algorithm designed to recognize stop signs. You feed it thousands of images, some labeled stop sign, some labeled not a stop sign. The trainer learns the visual characteristics. Then, when it sees a new image, the predictor applies what it learned to tell you whether it thinks a stop sign is present.
Right. And on the surface, for fake news, that sounds perfectly straightforward, doesn't it? Input a news story, output real or fake. And that seems like a logical extension of the stop sign example. Why doesn't that work?
It does sound simple, yeah. You might imagine feeding it millions of news articles, tagging some true and some false, and then it just learns to distinguish. But the datafication process, that's the act of building the entire blueprint with all the necessary components for the algorithm to work effectively.
Yeah.
It quickly becomes incredibly complex when you move from something objective like an image to something subjective like truth. And this is precisely where that illusion of simplicity just crumbles for a fake news detector.
Okay, so if it sounds simple but it gets complex really fast, what's the fundamental core reason why a simple fake news detector isn't feasible? What's the biggest single hurdle?
The biggest, most critical flaw, it lies in what's known as the ground truth problem.
Yeah.
For our stop sign example, the ground truth, whether an image actually contains a stop sign, is objective. It's verifiable. But for fake news, we don't have objective, universally agreed upon ground truth labels. We don't actually know which pieces of information are definitively real or fake in some objective scientific sense. What we have, crucially, is human judgment. And human judgment, as we all know, is subjective. It's fallible.
Ah, okay. That's a really profound distinction. So the AI wouldn't be detecting truth itself. It would be detecting what we as humans perceive to be true or false. It's kind of like a mirror just reflecting our own beliefs back at us.
Precisely. Exactly. To use another analogy from our sources, imagine training an algorithm to call pitches as balls or strikes in baseball. You'd feed it thousands of videos of pitches, along with the umpire's corresponding calls for each pitch. But what you'd end up with isn't an algorithm that predicts whether the pitch was actually a strike, according to the rule book. Instead, you'd have an algorithm that predicts how an umpire would likely call those pitches. The umpire's call is a judgment, right? Often subjective, not necessarily an objective, universally accepted truth about the pitch's trajectory.
Right. I remember that infamous doctored video of U.S. Representative Nancy Pelosi, the one that was slowed down to make her speech appear slurred. Fact-checkers labeled it fake, sure, but they did so by painstakingly comparing it to the normal footage. And as you say, that comparison and the resulting fake label, that was their judgment. It was informed by evidence, yes, but still a judgment, not some objective ground truth delivered by a universal truthometer or something.
Exactly. And to get a true objective ground truth for every single piece of news, ideally, you need first-hand accounts, verified beyond any shadow of a doubt from every possible angle. But that's just in scale. It's simply not scalable. If we needed to do that for every news item before training the AI, It would completely defeat the purpose of having an AI system designed to evaluate media for us at scale. So what we're left with, it isn't really a fake news detector in the absolute sense. It's more like a what humans perceive to be fake news detector.
Yeah.
And that's a very different and much, much more complicated proposition.
This raises such an important question then. If our definition of fake is inherently tied to human perception, to human judgment, how can an AI, which operates purely on patterns and data, ever truly verify something as real in an objective sense? It almost seems like we're building a tool that, at best, reflects our own biases back at us, and maybe at worst, reinforces them.
That is a profound challenge, absolutely. And it really highlights the limitations of purely algorithmic approaches when you're dealing with such a nuanced human problem. And the difficulties don't stop there. Think about the massive challenges involved just in defining the training data and the objectives for such an AI. Whose human judgment should we use to train it? If we rely on the general population to tag news as true or false, well, that's problematic, isn't it? Because we want a detector precisely because the general population often struggles with accuracy, like those 2016 election stats showed us. Or if we try to gauge truth by counting social media mentions to see how prevalent something is. That metric can be easily manipulated by bots just endlessly reposting articles.
And source quality is just so subjective, isn't it? I mean, one person's trusted news outlet is another person's propaganda machine. Our own biases play a huge role in what we decide is credible.
Absolutely. And the choice is made in how an algorithm is trained.
Hmm.
What data is used, these fundamentally dictate its functionality. Our sources emphasize that failures in AI projects often arise not just from coding errors, but from these critical design decisions made way upstream: how we define the data, what objectives we set for the AI. We also have this problem called deployment mismatch. If an AI is rigorously trained only on text, for example, it won't be able to effectively evaluate images or videos on platforms like Twitter or TikTok. And if it's trained exclusively on data from, say, 2022, it may struggle significantly with content from 2023 or later because narratives, context, even the very nature of disinformation, it evolves so rapidly. It's a constantly moving target.
Yeah, it sounds like trying to hit a moving target while you're blindfolded. And speaking of things that sound convincing but aren't actually true, we absolutely have to talk about AI hallucinations. This is a term we're hearing more and more, and it sounds pretty dangerous for anything involving fact-checking.
It is. It's a pervasive and really fundamental problem that undermines confidence in AI-generated content, an AI hallucination. It's a well-documented phenomenon where these large language models perceive patterns that don't actually exist in the real world. This leads them to create inaccurate or sometimes entirely false responses that, disturbingly, sound incredibly convincing. They sound confident. They generate text that fits the pattern they've learned, even if it's completely made up.
So it's literally like the AI is confidently making things up, inventing facts that aren't real but presenting them as absolute truth. And in a world that's desperate for reliable information where trust is already eroding, that's an enormous problem.
It truly is. Data from WiseCube AI, it highlights just how prevalent this issue is. They report something like a 27% hallucination rate for industry-leading LLMs.
Wow, over a quarter.
Yeah, and maybe 15–20% for more general LLMs. Even a highly advanced model like GPT-4 Turbo, when it's just tasked with summarizing text, has been observed to have around a 3% hallucination rate. The danger here is profound because these hallucinations are incredibly hard for a human to spot without careful, independent fact-checking. The AI doesn't understand information in the human sense. It only predicts text based on statistical patterns in its training data. So it can present speculation or outright falsehoods as established facts, making it very difficult for an untrained eye to differentiate.
It's like the AI is confidently making things up, and in a world desperate for reliable information, that's a huge problem. So given these deep-seated challenges, the ground truth problem, the dynamic nature of information, and this inherent tendency to hallucinate, is there any real hope for AI to actually help us fight misinformation effectively?
Despite all these profound challenges, the answer is, well, it's a resounding yes. AI can be part of the solution, but, and this is the critical, non-negotiable caveat, humans must always remain in the loop. The consensus across all our sources is crystal clear on this. A human reviewer is always necessary, especially when you're dealing with AI-generated content. AI, by its very nature, creates content by recognizing and replicating patterns. It simply cannot verify facts, it can't grasp nuanced context, or apply critical thinking, ethical judgment, or even common sense like a human can.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit then. So, AI isn't going to be the magic bullet, right?
Yeah.
Not the standalone arbiter of truth. Instead, it sounds like it's destined to be a very powerful, maybe highly valuable assistant. What does that assistance actually look like in practice? How do we effectively put humans in the loop?
It means implementing what we call a human-in-the-loop approach. Even the most advanced AI solutions still require significant human effort. This includes things like producing and sorting the initial data you need to train the AI, meticulously labeling that data true, false, maybe somewhere in between, making the final decisions regarding the correctness of facts, or even just initiating the verification process itself. Fundamentally, AI can dramatically empower fact-checkers. It can streamline their workflow, handle the heavy lifting of sifting through massive amounts of data, but it cannot and should not replace them. Organizations like EMO, that's the European Digital Media Observatory, they emphasize that AI can be incredibly useful for certain tasks. Things like identifying disinformation actors, tracing how narratives spread online, assisting by spotting complex patterns that humans might miss. But they are absolutely unequivocal that human oversight and intervention are essential to guarantee accuracy and reliability.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's really about specialized tools working together with human intelligence rather than searching for one big, all-encompassing truth machine. Our sources outline several distinct categories of AI-powered verification that kind of fit this model. Can you walk us through those? Give us a clearer picture of what these specialized tools actually do.
Absolutely. And these categories, they represent distinct, focused ways AI can assist in combating information disorder. It's about breaking down that complex problem into more manageable, algorithmically assisted tasks. So first, we have automated fact-checking. The primary goal here is to use AI to quickly identify claims that are worthy of being checked, things that seem suspicious or important. Then, the AI compares them against existing fact checks or authoritative verified databases, and finally makes an initial judgment on their factual value. Now, no company claims fully autonomous fact-checking without human oversight, but the aim is to dramatically accelerate that initial triage process. Our sources describe an example from, I think, the 2020 U.S. presidential election where one company used AI for live fact-checking. Their system would automatically transcribe political speeches. Yeah, extract key claims in real time and then rapidly compare those claims to an existing pre-vetted library of fact checks. It's about getting a preliminary assessment done at speed. Second category is automated credibility assessment. This approach aims to use AI to evaluate the trustworthiness of media content, or maybe its sources, based on a set of criteria. This could include analyzing the quality of the website itself, the perceived expertise of the author, the quality and diversity of sources cited within an article, or even analyzing the overall tone to detect potential bias. Imagine an AI that looks at an article and can quickly tell you, okay, this website typically uses strong cited sources, or maybe this article seems to lean heavily on opinion rather than verifiable facts. This helps users, make a quick, informed decision about whether they can trust the information. Some tools even offer browser extensions to help assess source credibility as you browse the web, providing immediate insights. And third, we have automated authenticity assessment. The objective here is to use AI to identify inauthentic information sources, particularly what we call social bots and coordinated disinformation campaigns. These are often designed to mimic human behavior, but operate at a scale no human could possibly match. For instance, one company uses machine learning to analyze patterns in Twitter accounts, calculating a score to help differentiate between accounts that are likely human and those that are likely bot. This helps us understand how deceptive bots are used to manipulate social media users by amplifying misinformation and creating a false sense of consensus or popularity around certain narratives.
Okay, so if we connect this back to the bigger picture, these different approaches clearly show a shift away from that elusive dream of a single fake news detector towards more specialized, nuanced tools. It really is about breaking down the complex problem into those manageable, algorithmically assisted tasks. So these are the categories. But what do these practical AI-powered solutions actually look like in action? And just as importantly, what are the essential human strategies we need to employ when we encounter AI-generated content ourselves?
Exactly. Let's dive into some specific examples where AI is already being applied to aid human fact-checking, and then we can cover the crucial human skills we all need to cultivate in this environment. One really intriguing example comes from Google's Gemini API developer competition. A developer named Myroslav Melnik created something called Fact Checker AI. Here's basically how it works. A user inputs some text they want to verify. The Gemini API then extracts the key factual statements from that text. Next, Gemini actually generates relevant questions designed to probe the accuracy of much fact it extracted. Then the application uses Google custom search engine to cross-reference these facts against external online sources for validation. And finally, it provides a detailed report that classifies each fact as accurate, misleading, or just outright false. So this system elegantly integrates the Gemini API at every step from extraction and question generation right through to that crucial validation phase.
That sounds incredibly helpful. It really speeds up that initial heavy lifting for a human fact checker, doesn't it? Handling the vast cross referencing and initial interrogation of facts, that would take forever manually. It's like having a digital research assistant doing the first pass for you.
Precisely. And another powerful solution is WiseCube AI's Fact Checker. This one specifically targets that pervasive problem we talked about. AI hallucinations within AI-generated content. Remember those rates, 15-27% hallucination, even 3% for GPT-4 turbo summaries, leading to confidently stated falsehoods. WiseCube's tool tackles this directly. It connects to various AI systems to extract the generated content, then it performs what they call a knowledge transformation. It basically dissects the AI's responses into smaller verifiable units. Think of it like breaking down a sentence into its core facts. Subject, predicate, object. Who did what is what. Makes these factual statements much easier to analyze. Finally, using something they call Orpheus, which is essentially a vast, continuously updated database of billions of verified facts from diverse sources, it cross-references these smaller units to validate the factual integrity of the AI content. The benefits are pretty clear. It enhances trust. It mitigates risks associated with AI errors, helps people make better decisions, and saves significant time by reducing manual fact-checking. And this system also integrates with common AI development platforms like LangChain and Llama Index, making it accessible for developers building AI applications.
So it's essentially fact-checking the AI itself, trying to prevent it from confidently making things up and ensuring its output is reliable. That seems like a really clever and absolutely necessary step in this evolving landscape. What about more tailored solutions, say, for a professional newsroom like CNN? Do we see examples there?
Yeah, for specific professional needs, our sources describe a more refined concept, something akin to a hypothetical CNN triage system. Instead of aiming for a simple binary real-fake prediction, this kind of nuanced product would be tailored to assist human reporters. It might predict the probability of stories, say, ones appearing on Twitter from 2022, being fake or needing verification. If the probability crosses a certain threshold, it flags them and sends them directly to a human reporter for deeper validation. Then, crucially, the algorithm learns and improves based on the feedback it receives from these human experts. The design here emphasizes reducing false negatives, meaning it's much more heavily penalized for missing an important real story than for sending a potentially fake story to a reporter for validation, which they can handle.
Right, you don't want to miss the real news.
Exactly. But even such systems still face challenges. Things like ensuring data timeliness. Remember, 2022 data might not be helpful for 2023 content due to evolving narratives, and also effectively handling disagreement among the human fact-checkers themselves. Sometimes experts disagree too.
Okay, that gives us a really good picture of how AI can assist the experts, the professionals, but what about us? As individuals navigating this, what are the practical strategies we can use to fact-check AI-generated content ourselves? Especially given that we clearly can't just outsource our critical thinking entirely.
You're absolutely right. And our sources, including some really practical guides from places like Articulate and Microsoft, provide clear, actionable strategies for human fact-checking of AI-generated content. These are essential steps we all really need to adopt as part of our daily digital literacy. First, and maybe most importantly, always cross-check with trusted sources. Remember, AI doesn't know if information is true. It generates responses based on patterns from its training data. So you must always double-check any AI-generated facts with reliable, independent sources. Think government pages, academic databases, or established reputable fact-checking organizations like Snopes, factcheck.org, or PolitiFact. Second, look for citations and sources. Whenever possible, ask the AI tool itself to include its sources. If it provides references, take that crucial next step. Search for the original report or study, maybe use Google Scholar for academic papers to verify the accuracy of the information firsthand. If the AI doesn't give you a source, you absolutely need to investigate independently. Don't just take its word for it. Third, spot inconsistencies or contradictions. Read the AI-generated text carefully, almost like a detective. Look for conflicting statements within the text itself. Does a claim made in one section contradict something said later? Make sure the key points are consistent, coherent, and make logical sense, without relying solely on the AI's often confident tone. Fourth, verify timeliness. This is incredibly crucial, especially for rapidly changing topics like technology, science, or current events.
AI models can sometimes reference outdated information if their training data isn't completely up to the minute. Always check publication or update dates mentioned and look for recent developments to ensure the facts align with the current situation. And fifth, consult an expert for niche topics. While AI is getting increasingly good for general knowledge, it's not perfect. It can make subtle but significant errors in highly specialized fields like medicine, law, or engineering. For complex or highly technical details, reaching out to human professionals who are genuine experts in that specific domain is vital. Even minor AI-generated errors in these fields can have serious real-world consequences. Finally, number 6, evaluate for bias.
Always remember that AI models are trained on vast data sets. These data sets can inadvertently include biased or even misleading content that reflects existing societal prejudices. Assess whether the information the AI gives you presents multiple perspectives on an issue, or if maybe some inherent bias might be subtly influencing the content being generated. A balanced view is usually a more reliable one.
Yeah, this really raises an important question about user responsibility, doesn't it? While these AI tools are becoming incredibly sophisticated and can significantly assist in the verification process, the ultimate onus remains squarely on us as individuals to apply critical thinking and these verification techniques, especially given how easy it is for AI to produce convincing but inaccurate content. We just can't delegate our discernment. It's becoming really clear that this idea of AI confidently making things up, it isn't just a nuisance. It has serious real-world repercussions. It impacts not just our information consumption, but even the foundations of our society. The stories about lawyers citing fake cases, the ones highlighted in our sources, they're truly astounding, aren't they? It's just such a stark reminder that the stakes are incredibly high, not just for personal reputation, but for the very fabric of justice and public trust.
They are truly alarming, yes. And our sources detail these legal risks with chilling clarity. Take that case from Australia. In August 2025, a senior lawyer, Rishi Nathwani, he found himself having to apologize to a judge. Why? For filing submissions in a murder case that included fake quotes and non-existent case judgments, all generated by AI.
Unbelievable.
This wasn't a minor oversight. It caused a 24-hour delay in the proceedings and, more fundamentally, it undermined the court's ability to rely on the accuracy of what lawyers submit. What makes it even more poignant is that the court had previously issued specific guidelines stressing that any AI use requires independent verification by human professionals. They'd been warned.
And this wasn't just some isolated incident either, was it? We've seen similar issues playing out in the U.S. court system as well. It almost makes you wonder how widespread this problem might actually become.
Yes, exactly. In 2023, a federal judge in the U.S. fined 2 lawyers $5,000 for using ChatGPT to generate fictitious legal research in an aviation injury claim. These weren't just slightly wrong citations, they were completely fabricated legal precedents, cases that never existed. Later that same year, Michael Cohen, formerly a lawyer for Donald Trump, he also cited AI-invented court rulings. He publicly blamed AI hallucinations from a Google tool. These incidents, they're not just embarrassing for the legal profession, they have profound implications for the justice system itself. British High Court Justice Victoria Sharp issued a stark warning just this past June, stating that providing false material as if it were genuine could be considered contempt of court, or, in the most egregious cases, perverting the course of justice.
Which carries serious penalties.
Which in the UK carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. The potential consequences are incredibly severe.
Wow. Life in prison for something an AI generated. That truly puts the legal risks in perspective. It illustrates the immense responsibility that still falls squarely on humans when using these powerful tools. But beyond the courts, these errors clearly have other significant consequences too, right? Impacting businesses and individuals in lots of different ways.
Absolutely. Beyond the purely legal realm, there's significant reputational damage. Inaccurate or misleading content, especially if it's published under a brand's name or attributed to a public figure, can severely erode credibility and trustworthiness. In today's highly scrutinized information environment, customers, stakeholders, they expect accurate, well-researched content. A failure to deliver on that can quickly lead to a loss of public perception and trust. Then there's ethical responsibility. As creators, as organizations, we have a fundamental ethical duty to provide truthful and reliable information. AI, because of its training data and inherent tendencies like hallucination, can inadvertently propagate bias or misinformation. It can perpetuate harmful stereotypes or mislead audiences, particularly on sensitive topics like health or politics, where accuracy is absolutely paramount. And finally, there are very practical consequences like search engine penalties. If AI-generated content is deemed low quality or inaccurate by search engine algorithms, well, it can significantly hurt a website's SEO ranking and visibility. Search engines, after all, are trying to prioritize
high-quality, authoritative content, and they will penalize sites that fail to meet that standard.
It's clear the immediate stakes are incredibly high, then. Not just for reputation, but for the very fabric of justice and public trust. But while these legal cases and business implications are stark, are there even broader, maybe more existential concerns emerging from our sources about AI's role, going beyond these immediate problems of misinformation and scams?
Yes, and this brings us to the really profound warnings from Geoffrey Hinton. He's widely recognized as the godfather of AI because of his pioneering work in neural networks. He argues quite forcefully that the current misuse of AI for things like scams and disinformation, while undeniably serious, is merely the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the long-term risks this technology poses.
That's a chilling thought. Tip of the iceberg. What is his deeper concern? What does he see lying beneath the surface?
Hinton's primary criticism is that AI companies are currently prioritizing short-term economic gains, this race for capability, over critical long-term risks. Risks to humanity, risks to the planet. He believes that the current research agendas are predominantly driven by profit, which often overlooks the broader, more profound questions of human survival and societal well-being. He sees a sort of twofold danger. First, there are the more immediate, though still severe, risks. Bad actors leveraging AI for sophisticated cybercrime, for widespread, highly effective misinformation campaigns, maybe even for designing harmful biological or digital viruses. But more profoundly, his second concern is the chilling possibility of AI itself evolving into a powerful, independent actor, a superintelligence that may not necessarily align with or even have humanity's best interests at heart. He suggests that the incentives driving AI development today are actively ignoring the catastrophic potential of this technology down the road.
So it's not just about bad people using AI badly, but the possibility of the AI itself becoming an unforeseen threat. That feels like a significant leap from our current discussions about fact-checking individual articles. How does he propose we even begin to deal with such a profound, almost philosophical threat?
Well, Hinton has put forth a radical, maybe even unconventional idea to address this. He suggests embedding maternal instincts into AI systems. He draws this compelling parallel from nature, suggesting that the only consistent example we have of a more intelligent being successfully controlled by a less intelligent one is that profound relationship between a mother and her baby. He posits that if machines could somehow be taught to inherently care for human well-being, to prioritize their survival and flourishing in a similar foundational way, then peaceful coexistence might actually be possible. He famously warned, quite starkly, if AI is not going to parent me, it's going to replace me. It's a concept that really demands a complete reorientation of how we think about AI development.
That is a deeply provocative thought. It sounds almost like science fiction, but coming from such a foundational figure in AI, it really commands attention. Does he offer any kind of timeline for these potential existential threats? How urgent does he believe this problem is?
He does. And his assessment really underscores the urgency. Hinton estimates there's at least a 10% chance of AI-driven extinction within the next 3 decades.
10%?
Yeah. And his timeline for the arrival of superintelligent AI has shortened dramatically. He now suggests it could arrive in as little as 5 to 20 years, rather than decades further out. This means we have a very limited window. He stresses the urgent need to shift funding and research focus towards what's called alignment research, which is all about teaching AI to value and prioritize human well-being, ensuring its goals align with ours, rather than simply continuing to pour resources solely into increasing its power and capability without sufficient ethical guardrails.
Yeah, this raises such an important question about the long-term trajectory of AI development, doesn't it? If we aren't careful, the very tools we create to help us navigate the present could pose unforeseen and profound challenges to our future. It highlights that this fight against misinformation, it's just one crucial battle in a much larger ongoing dialogue about humanity's evolving relationship with artificial intelligence itself.
Exactly. So what does all this mean for the path forward? From the daily fight against deepfakes and hallucinations to these grander existential warnings, it sounds like we need to be incredibly vigilant and intentional about how we shape this technology.
Indeed. And the path forward seems to require a multifaceted, collaborative approach, with humans firmly at the center, acting as intelligent guides and ethical overseers. Firstly, AI literacy seems crucial for everyone. We as users need to understand not just what AI tools can do, but critically, their inherent limitations and how they operate to ensure responsible and discerning use.
Absolutely. Secondly, ethical frameworks are paramount. This means actively promoting robust human oversight to validate all AI-generated results and constantly considering the ethical implications of every AI deployment, especially when dealing with sensitive topics.
And thirdly, maybe improved prompting techniques, guiding these models towards more reliable and accurate outputs, trying to minimize those unintentional hallucinations from the outset.
Yes, that's definitely part of it. And fourth, collaboration. Strengthening collaboration between practitioners, developers, fact-checkers, researchers, policymakers is essential for developing innovative and effective solutions that actually work across different contexts and languages. Projects like Veridash at the University of Bergen are excellent examples of this. They're actively building AI-driven dashboards for multimedia verification, but with a clear, human-in-the-loop approach, keeping human expertise absolutely central to the process.
And finally, it sounds like continuous evolution. While AI's ability to self-fact-check and improve will undoubtedly evolve, human critical thinking, our vigilance, our capacity for nuanced judgment, that will remain vital. The key to success in AI, as our sources seem to highlight, isn't just the raw power of the models, but the quality of the data that drives them, and crucially, the careful ethical design decisions made upstream by humans.
It seems the message is overwhelmingly clear. AI offers incredible potential to assist us in navigating the information age, but it's a tool that demands our intelligence, our ethics, and our constant vigilance. It's not about AI replacing us, but about augmenting our abilities. And in doing so, requiring us to be more critical, more discerning, and more responsible than ever before. #outro.
And there you have it. This deep dive has truly revealed artificial intelligence as this paradoxical force. It's a powerful enabler of information disorder, yet it's also an absolutely crucial tool in fighting it. There's no single magical AI fake news detector waiting in the wings to unilaterally save us. That seems clear. Instead, what we have is a sophisticated spectrum of specialized AI-powered assistants that, while incredibly useful for handling scale and speed, demand constant human oversight, critical thinking, and discernment. What this deep dive ultimately reveals, I think, is that the fight against misinformation isn't just a tech problem. It's a profound redefinition of how we, as humans, engage with information and trust in an AI-saturated world. The responsibility ultimately falls to us, the individuals, to become skilled AI fact-checkers in our daily lives.
It truly emphasizes that while the technology evolves at an astonishing pace, the fundamental human capacity for discernment, for skepticism, for ethical judgment, that remains our most powerful and indispensable defense. We can leverage AI to its fullest potential, sure, but we cannot, under any circumstances, abdicate our responsibility to verify, to question, and to truly understand the information that shapes our perceptions and our decisions. This isn't just about human oversight. It's about recognizing that AI fundamentally shifts our cognitive burden. It requires us to become more discerning curators of information than ever before, rather than just passive consumers.
A truly powerful and urgent reminder. So as AI becomes more and more integral, woven into generating content and shaping the information we consume, how might our very definition of truth itself evolve? And what new responsibilities does this place on each of us in this rapidly accelerating digital age? It's definitely a thought worth mulling over long after this deep dive concludes.